So, here's a big question. Is humankind like the worst species ever?
Wow, starting strong.
Well, it's something you probably think about, right? Especially when you look at the news. It's a heavy one.
For sure.
And in this deep dive, we're not going to give you our opinion. Instead, we've got this really fascinating set of AI analyses. We're going to unpack what they say about this.
Exactly. The goal here is really to pull out the key bits from these AI sources. You know, the good stuff, the bad, the really complicated stuff about what humanity does.
Yeah, trying to get a clearer picture without drowning in data.
Right. And hopefully give you maybe a more nuanced view. We found some surprising things in there. It really gets you thinking.
Definitely. So we've mapped out a path here. We'll look at our environmental impact, obviously. Then there's our history, conflict and violence,
Yeah, that's a big one.
plus philosophical angles, psychology, social inequalities, even spiritual viewpoints come into it.
It's pretty comprehensive.
So let's start with the environment. That often seems like ground zero for our negative impact.
Agreed. And the picture that AI analyses paint, ecologically speaking, well, it's pretty confronting. Let's maybe start with deforestation.
Okay.
The scale is just, it's almost unbelievable. We're losing forest area roughly the size of Portugal every single year.
Portugal, wow.
Yeah.
That really helps visualize it, doesn't it?
It does.
And the AI pulled out some pretty stark numbers, something like 10 million hectares gone each year. Net loss around 5 million.
That's right. And what really jumped out from the analysis is that something like 95% of that loss is happening in the tropics.
95%, just concentrated there.
Exactly. And it's not just area, it's the sheer number of trees. The AI models estimate about 15.3 billion trees cut down globally each year.
15 billion.
Yeah. And looking back historically, the analysis suggests nearly half of all the trees on Earth have been cleared in just the last 12,000 years.
Half. In 12,000 years.
Oh, no.
That's staggering. And this rate, it seems like it's actually accelerating now. The AI showed tropical tree cover loss nearly doubled between, 2001 and 2023.
That's correct. It went from about 6.7 million hectares a year up to a shocking 12.1 million.
Wow.
And what the AI analysis really highlights are the main reasons, the drivers behind this.
Right, like farming.
Yeah. Agricultural expansion is huge, especially clearing land for cattle ranching. That, plus the demand for things like palm oil and timber, those are the big ones according to the AI's crunching of the data.
Okay. And the fallout from all this deforestation, it's massive. Isn't it like directly feeding into climate change?
Oh, absolutely. The AI models show really clearly how taking down forests flips them from being carbon sinks, absorbers of CO2, into actually emitting greenhouse. And it doesn't stop there, right? The analysis links deforestation to increased wildfire risk, less rainfall, which then leads to major soil erosion. The AI actually backed up WWF's estimates that we've lost maybe half the world's topsoil just since the 20th century.
Half the topsoil.
Yeah, and then there's the human cost displacing indigenous communities who relied directly on these forests.
And the impact on animals, plants, biodiversity.
Yeah.
The AI flagged that, over 80% of land species live in forests?
That's the figure. And the estimated extinction rate just from deforestation is terrifying, maybe around 137 species every day.
Every single day. Gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And what the AI analysis really stresses is how interconnected it all is. You mess with these forest ecosystems and it just cascades. It undermines all these essential things we depend on. Clean air, water, pollination for crops, climate regulation.
It's a really powerful example of our footprint. Okay, so broadening out a bit to climate change and air pollution, the AI highlighted data there that's just as concerning.
Yeah. You see this significant jump in the key greenhouse gases, CO2, methane, nitrous oxide, really taking off since the Industrial Revolution, which, interestingly, the AI's historical data pinpointed as starting in Great Britain.
Right, that shift to burning fossil fuels on a massive scale.
Exactly. And the direct result, the AI confirms, is the Earth's average surface temperature warming up by about 1.1 degrees Celsius since that time.
Which might not sound like a lot, but for the planet's systems.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And beyond the climate itself, the analysis flagged air pollution severity as a massive global public health crisis.
It really is. I was shocked by the AI finding that air pollution might be responsible for something like 9 million deaths worldwide every year.
9 million. It's a staggering number. And the global air quality picture, pretty grim. For 2024, the AI analysis suggested only 7 countries actually met the WHO's guidelines for healthy air.
Only 7. Out of the whole world.
Only 7. And the AI data showed Asia is hit particularly hard, places like Bangladesh, Pakistan, India having the highest pollution levels. What's interesting is the AI did detect a slight global dip in average PM2.5 levels between 2010 and 2019, like 1%.
But still way too high in many places.
It's still dangerously high. Plus, you have these other factors, like the AI noted the increase in wildfires, like we've seen in the US. Those can cause massive spikes in pollution, even where trends might otherwise be slightly improving.
Right. It really shows how complex it is trying to balance, human activity with the planet's health and our own health, really.
Completely.
And then there's biodiversity loss. The numbers the AI pulled together there were honestly terrifying.
They really are. The AI synthesized loads of ecological studies, and the finding is that the average population size of monitored wildlife, it's dropped by 73%.
73%.
In the last 50 years, between 1970 and 2020. And for freshwater species, it's even worse, down 85%.
85%. That's just devastating. And the AI analysis pointed to land use change as the main cause, like us changing habitats.
That's right. The AI's analysis suggests converting natural habitats, mostly for farming, accounts for about 30% of that decline.
Okay.
Then you've got overexploitation, like unsustainable fishing, hunting, that's another 20%. Climate change and pollution add about 14%.
And the potential number of extinctions.
Yeah.
Didn't the AI model suggest something like 1 million species are facing extinction right now?
Up to 1 million plant and animal species, yeah. That's the estimate based on current trends.
And the speed this is happening at. It's way faster than normal, right?
Oh, massively. The AI compared current rates to this sort of natural background rate of extinction you'd expect over geological time. We're seeing extinctions now at a rate that's estimated to be 100 to maybe even 10,000 times higher.
10,000 times.
Yeah. And again, as the AI stressed with deforestation, losing all this biodiversity isn't just sad, it messes up those crucial ecosystem services we rely on. Clean air, water, pollination, keeping the climate stable. It's all linked.
It truly is. Okay, let's shift gears a bit, but still looking at our impact. Let's talk about conflict, our history of violence. It's a pretty sobering part of the human story that the AI analyses also dug into.
Yeah, indeed. Humankind's history, when you look at the texts and records the AI processed, it's marked by conflict from the earliest skirmishes right up to, well, today. But the AI really highlighted the 20th century as being particularly horrific, just in terms of the scale of violence and the systematic cruelty involved.
Absolutely. The AI specifically called out the genocides of that century. The Armenian genocide, the Holocaust, Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia. Just these awful examples of intentionally trying to destroy entire groups of people based on ethnicity or religion or whatever.
It's chilling. And something the AI's linguistic analysis picked up frequently in historical documents is how often genocide goes hand in hand with ethnic cleansing.
Right, the forced removal of people from land.
Exactly. The AI's data strongly suggests this historical link between war and genocide war, often creating the conditions where these atrocities become possible.
And you'd hope we'd learn, but the nature of conflict seems to be changing in the 21st century, doesn't it? Based on the AI's analysis.
Yes, that's a key finding. The AI analysis of current conflict data shows fewer wars between countries, but a big rise in internal conflicts. Civil wars, violence by non-state groups, militias, insurgents. In fact, the AI data showed a peak in battle-related deaths back in 2014, mostly because of these internal conflicts flaring up.
And the reasons behind it all.
Yeah.
Still the same old things.
Often complex, yeah. The AI analysis, looking at political science, sociology research, it points to things like old historical grudges, ethnic tensions, religious friction, fights over resources, which might be getting worse with climate change, and just basic power imbalances, often a mix of these things.
And the impact of all this fighting, it goes way beyond just the soldiers killed, doesn't it?
Oh, far beyond. The AI's analysis of what happens after conflict consistently shows massive civilian deaths, obviously, but also destruction of infrastructure, hospitals, schools, roads. Huge numbers of people displaced, becoming refugees, critical services just collapsing, and then the long-term scars on society. The mental health impact is profound. The AI tracked public health data showing much higher rates of PTSD, depression, anxiety in conflict zones.
And the kids.
Devastating effects on children. Their education, their health, their future job prospects, all severely impacted. And the AI also logs the environmental damage that often happens alongside conflict habitats destroyed. Pollution from weapons, resources getting depleted, even sometimes the deliberate destruction of cultural sites.
It really paints a grim, grim picture of what conflict does.
Okay, let's pivot to something maybe more internal, the philosophical view. This age-old question about human nature itself. Are we basically good, basically bad? What did the AI find in all those philosophical texts?
Yeah, the million-dollar question. And the AI's dive into philosophy shows, well, thinkers have been wrestling with this forever with wildly different takes.
Like Hobbes versus Rousseau. Exactly. You've got Thomas Hobbes on one side famously saying life without strong rules would be nasty, brutish, and short. Basically arguing we're fundamentally selfish and need control. And then Jean-Jacques Rousseau arguing the opposite, that we're naturally good, naturally gentle, and it's society that messes us up.
And the AI found similar debates across different cultures too, right?
Oh, yeah. In Confucian thought, for instance, you have Mencius strongly arguing we're inherently good, that we have these innate sprouts of benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom.
Okay.
But then you have another Confucian thinker, Zunzi, saying, nope, human nature is inherently bent towards evil, towards self-interest. Goodness is something you have to work at through learning and effort.
Fascinating contrast. And what about more modern insights, like from developmental psychology? Did the AI look at that?
It did, and that adds another interesting layer. Recent studies, which the AI included in its analysis, suggest that even babies, like really young infants, show behaviors that look like early forms of fairness, empathy, even altruism.
Like preferring helpful characters in experiments.
Exactly, that kind of thing. These findings, highlighted by the AI, sort of challenge those purely pessimistic views and maybe suggest we have some innate wiring for being cooperative, for being good.
So it's definitely not a simple good or bad answer. Much more complex.
Seems that way.
And then you get into moral philosophy itself, trying to figure out what makes something right or wrong.
Right, and the AI covered the main schools of thought there. You've got consequentialism, utilitarianism being the famous example where it's all about the outcomes. The best action is the one that creates the most good for the most people.
Okay, focus on results.
Then there's deontology, often linked with Kant. That's about duties, rules. Some actions are just inherently right or wrong, regardless of the consequences, like you shouldn't lie, period.
Got it. Rules are rules.
And then virtue ethics, going back to Aristotle, that focuses less on actions or rules and more on character, like what makes a good person. Cultivating virtues like courage, honesty, compassion.
So different ways of approaching goodness.
Very different. And underlying all this, the AI noted these broader philosophical outlooks, pessimism versus optimism.
Right. Like Schopenhauer seeing life as basically suffering.
Exactly. That's pessimism. Versus optimism, which holds out hope for positive outcomes, believes in progress. And these broader views definitely color how people interpret human history and our actions.
It's a huge, tangled web of ideas. Okay, let's bring it down from philosophy to maybe more concrete psychology. What does psychology tell us, according to the AI's analysis of research, about why we do the things we do, both the good and the bad?
And psychology offers some really useful lenses here. Take altruism, helping others, sometimes at a cost to ourselves. The AI analysis points to several drivers. There's the instinct to protect our relatives, our kin. There's reciprocity, I help you, you help me later. There's belonging to a group, wanting to support your team, basically. And crucially, empathy, being able to feel what someone else is feeling.
Right. That seems key.
It does. And the AI also highlighted our amazing ability to cooperate, even with people we don't know well, to achieve common goals. That's quite remarkable in the animal kingdom.
And didn't the AI also mention something about the brain science behind this? Like, it feels good to be good.
Yeah, exactly. Neuroscience research, synthesized by the AI, connects this kind of pro-social behavior to brain areas involved in reward and empathy. So doing good literally activates pleasure centers. And interestingly, the AI noted research showing altruism benefits the well-being of both the person giving the help and the person receiving it. Kind of a win-win.
That's encouraging. But, okay, what about the flip side? Aggression. Why do we harm each other?
Yeah, the darker side. Aggression behavior intended to cause harm is really complex. The AI's look at the psych studies suggests it's not just one thing. It could be influenced by evolutionary instincts, maybe, but also learned behavior, conditioning, stressful situations can trigger it, mental health issues can play a role, even brain chemistry, neurotransmitters. It's a whole mix.
And learning plays a big part, like seeing violence.
Sadly, yes. The AI analysis highlighted research on how violence can be learned, imitated. Kids see it in the family or among peers or even in the media, and it can shape their behavior.
And what about competition? That drive to be better than others, where does that come from?
Competition, yeah, that drive to outperform seems pretty fundamental. Psychology, according to the AI, looks at possible evolutionary roots, maybe linked to competing for scarce resources back in the day, ensuring survival.
Makes sense.
And healthy competition can be good, right? It can motivate us to achieve things, push ourselves. But the AI analysis also flagged the dangers of unhealthy competition when it becomes about winning at any cost, leading to cheating, unethical stuff, high stress, broken relationships.
And comparing ourselves to others fuels that.
Big time.
Yes.
Social comparison, constantly checking how we stack up against others. The AI notes that as a major driver of competitive feelings, both good and bad.
So it really sounds like this classic nature versus nurture thing, doesn't it? Our basic tendencies interacting with our experiences.
That's exactly the picture the AI paints based on the psychological research. It's this constant interplay between our biology, our predispositions, and the environment, our learning, our culture, that shapes whether we act more pro-socially or anti-socially.
Okay, now let's look outwards again at the structures we build as societies. The AI analysis also dug into social inequalities and injustices, which seems like a huge part of the human story.
A massive part, yeah. Social inequality, this uneven spread of resources, opportunities, power based on things like race or gender or class. It's been a constant feature, sadly. The AI's review of historical data just shows endless examples of discrimination baked into systems.
You see it with the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow in the U.S., right? Still causing racial gaps today.
Absolutely. Or the long, long history of gender inequality, limiting women's lives and opportunities across the globe.
Yeah.
And the AI also highlighted ongoing discrimination against people with disabilities, another area where societies consistently fall short.
And the result of all this inequality.
It creates huge gaps in well-being. It traps people in cycles of disadvantage, makes it incredibly hard for marginalized groups to get ahead, socially or economically. And poverty is a really key piece of this puzzle that the AI analysis focused on.
Right, and poverty isn't just about not having money, is it? The AI defined it more broadly.
Much broader.
Yeah.
The AI definition includes not having access to essentials, food, clean water, healthcare, housing, but also things like being socially excluded, lacking dignity, not having control over your own life. And globally, millions and millions still live in extreme poverty, just struggling day to day for basic survival. The AI pointed to a tangled web of causes, lack of jobs, being isolated, the impacts of climate change hitting the poorest hardest, conflict, not enough education.
The effects are devastating.
Yeah, hitting health, education, social status, often trapping families for generations. And what's really worrying, the AI found that progress on reducing global poverty has actually slowed down recently. We're apparently not on track to meet that UN goal of ending extreme poverty by 2030.
That's deeply concerning, a huge challenge. And tied into this are human rights violations, which the AI documented extensively as well.
These are supposed to be the basic rights everyone has just by virtue of being human. You know, the right to life, liberty, freedom of thought, work, education, a decent standard of living.
The Universal Declaration of Human Rights in '48 was supposed to lock that down, wasn't it? The AI called that a milestone.
A major milestone, yes. But the AI's analysis of human rights reports shows the grim reality is that violations are still widespread. Awful things like slavery, torture, genocide, discrimination, they're still happening. And they usually hit the most vulnerable groups the hardest.
And it's not just the really extreme stuff, right? It's also denial of basic political rights or economic and social rights.
Exactly. Denial of the right to vote or fair trial, but also denial of the right to healthcare or education or adequate housing. It's a persistent gap between the ideals we state and the reality many people live.
It really is. Okay, so let's think about the systems we've created that influence all this politics, economics. What did the AI analysis suggest about their impact on us and the planet?
Well, our political systems, whether they're more liberal, conservative, socialist, whatever flavor, they have a huge sway, right? They set the rules for environmental protection, fund social programs, shape how countries deal with each other, how resources get distributed.
Right.
But the AI analysis also shows how negative political factors like instability, corruption, conflict can just completely undermine any progress. And political polarization, which seems rampant in many places, can tear societies apart and make it impossible to get things done.
And what about economics?
Yeah.
Capitalism, growth?
Yeah.
The AI must have looked at that.
Oh, yeah. The dominant model, capitalism focused on GDP growth, it's undeniably driven progress, innovation, lifted many out of poverty.
Yeah.
But the AI data clearly shows it's come at a massive environmental cost.
Right. Unsustainable consumption, pollution.
Yeah.
Pushing past planetary limits.
Exactly. The AI's analysis of environmental and economic data makes that link very clear. And it also highlights this growing discussion found in sustainability research it reviewed about needing different economic models, models that decouple growth from trashing the planet, maybe shifting towards a well-being economy that measures more than just money.
Oh, interesting.
Plus, the AI consistently flags economic inequality as a major issue within many capitalist systems, hurting both individual lives and just the general cohesion of society. So you've got this constant tension, this balancing act between economic growth, environmental health, and social fairness.
Definitely a tricky balance. Okay, finally, let's touch on spirituality. What role does that play in this whole picture of humanity, according to the AI's look at religious and philosophical ideas?
Religion and spirituality, in all their diverse forms, they often provide the frameworks people use to think about ethics, right and wrong, moral responsibility.
Hmm.
They tend to emphasize core values like compassion, kindness, justice, the dignity of every person. Often, this is grounded in belief in some higher power or ultimate reality. The AI analysis looked at various origin stories, myths, and also this common theme across many traditions about the duality of human nature.
Like the struggle between good and evil within us.
Exactly, that internal battle between our sort of lower desires and our higher aspirations. And while the beliefs and practices are incredibly varied, the AI showed this rich tapestry. It also identified common ethical threads running through many traditions. Things like compassion, empathy, the basic value of life seem almost universal. It reflects this deep, enduring human search for meaning, purpose, and some kind of moral compass.
So, wow, bringing all these threads together,
Mhm.
this deep dive into the AI's analysis, it paints an incredibly complex picture, doesn't it? That original question, are we the worst species ever? It really doesn't feel like a simple yes or no.
Not at all, not even close. The data we've talked about, synthesized by the AI, just screams complexity. We have this undeniable track record of destruction, cruelty, injustice.
Yeah. But alongside that, there's this equally undeniable capacity for incredible altruism, creativity, compassion, cooperation. The AI's overall take seems to be that we're deeply paradoxical. We can be monstrous and we can be magnificent. So just slapping a label like worst on us, it feels way too simplistic, almost useless.
Yeah, and maybe defining worst is the wrong way to look at it anyway. It's so subjective. And if you only focus on the bad stuff, you ignore all the good we've done, and maybe more importantly, our potential to actually change.
Exactly right. And the AI analysis did pick up on that potential. It highlighted this growing awareness globally about our impact, about the need for change. You see it in the push for renewable energy, in movements for social justice, in this talk about focusing on well-being, not just economic growth.
So there's hope mixed in with the grim stuff.
There is. Maybe the AI sort of overarching summary distilled from everything it looked at is something like, yeah, it's complicated, really complicated, but there's definitely potential for us to do better. Ultimately, then, it kind of comes down to choices, doesn't it? Our choices going forward, individually and, as a whole species.
Absolutely. That seems to be the crux of it. And maybe the first step is just honestly recognizing our flaws, understanding the full picture, the good and the bad, as revealed by this kind of analysis.
In the mirror, yeah.
Yeah. And from there, well, the path forward seems to involve consciously choosing compassion, actively fighting for justice, really prioritizing health of the planet that sustains us. That seems like the way we could potentially start to rewrite the human story.
So, wrapping up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's clear the question, are we the worst, is just way too loaded, too simple. The reality the AI analysis reflects is this profound duality, capable of terrible things, capable of amazing things. Thanks for going on this pretty intense journey through the data with us.
Indeed. It's a lot to think about. And maybe, as you go about your day after hearing this, it's worth reflecting on your own role in all this. Given that we have this capacity for both harm and good, what choices, even small ones, can you make to maybe nudge things in a more positive direction? It's a question for all of us, really, as we figure out our place here.